If you're tired of not making progress and you're ready to be the artist you know you're meant to be, you're in the right place. You're listening to the Singer's Path podcast. The Path, or Performing Artists Training Hub, will cover everything, including singing tips that actually work, advice from top industry professionals, and life-changing mindset shifts. Out with the starving artist and in with the thriving artist. I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, professional singer, actor, educator, and entrepreneur. I'm not afraid to speak the truth and stop the gatekeeping of quality information so you can actually become the artist you dream of being. So let's get on the path, shall we? Even though we're all on our own journeys, it always helps to have a guide. Hello. Welcome back to the Singer's Path podcast. It is me, your host, Sarah Bishop, and I am here today once again on TikTok Live. We're doing a little morning session, so I have my coffee. However, it has cooled. It is not at a temperature that is that pleasant to drink. It is like that lukewarm, like in between cold and hot, just old. The temperature is old. That's what it is. And but I'm here. I am so excited to start my day off with some more mindset focused topics today. And we are piggybacking off of the conversation that we had last episode, which is about manifestation for artists and how the concept of manifestation is either so watered down and washed down. People are either afraid of it or they think it's nonsense or it doesn't work. And then some people are obsessed with it and are working really hard at it, but maybe they're not quite, doing it in a way that actually is serving them. And maybe they're missing some things about it. And of course, you're going to hear me say this, so I'll just say this at the top of the episode. All of this talk of this, it's on my mind because I'm preparing to do something very special that is going to begin at the beginning of May. And if you're listening to the podcast right now, you can know that the link to join this special challenge will be below and available to you. Just know that the challenge itself starts in May. And if you're on TikTok Live, you can always feel free to go to the link in my bio here. The wait list at the point that I am making this is available to register. And then you'll be the first people to know when that comes live, and then you can join, okay? But as far as the people on the podcast, if you're hearing this like on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, the link to register should be there. So just to dispel any confusion about that. And the challenge itself is called the Inevitable Artist Activation. And why did I pick that name? Well, because a lot of us are praying and hoping and wishing and working like little hamsters on wheels. And sometimes, and this is where, the direction of my business is going, is serving artists to a deeper level in letting them know of ways that they're actually sabotaging getting the things they want. And some of that has to do with overcompensating or really running on subconscious stories that they're not aware of that are, affecting their behaviors and how they're showing up. And even though they're working really, really, really hard, even with that, I have this story that I have to work exceptionally hard to get the things that I want. Well, sometimes you run into walls with that if that's the belief that you hold and carry all the time, okay? So this challenge that I'm talking about is going to just be an introduction to the very deep work that we actually do in the Inner Circle membership. This one is open to the public, and the Inevitable Artist Activation, again, inevitable to pivot away and start to be aware of the subconscious stories that are blocking what you want to come in. When you start doing that and you start peeling away and you start really embracing who you are authentically are and you get out of your own way, then the work of manifestation honestly does become about embodying the inevitable, because your mind, body, spirit, nervous system, brain, everything is on board, that you are following your heart's dream, right? And that becomes inevitable, right? The outcome of doing all those things and being in alignment in that way, it really does make you a magnet for the things that you've been working towards, okay? So inevitable, it's really about in the simplistic way to actually describe how manifestation actually works with energetics and quantum physics and all of that is declaring, again, mind, body, spirit, and that's the stuff where you have to do the digging to understand what is not causing you to be aligned, mind, body, spirit, okay? But when that happens, and you get to be like, okay, this is happening, snap, at the click of my finger, everyone and everything is on board, and then you are the source, and then it happens. Okay, so that's why it's called the inevitable artist activation. Again, I'm kind of weaving in and out, but more or less, it's gonna be it is not basic. Okay, nothing I do is basic. All right. We're not doing some like, you just think positive and then you make a dream board. Okay. We'll talk about how elements of that are important in manifestation, but it's not everything. Like I said, if mind, body, spirit, nervous system, soul, subconscious are not on the same team and you are not aware how your nervous system and mind is pushing away things from coming in, well, then you can think positive until, the day you go away and some things may not land well because there's some kind of dissonance happening, okay? So this inevitable artist activation is all about uncovering where the dissonance may be for you, and it's introducing manifestation in a way that is clear and will dispel any of your uncertainty around why it maybe hasn't been working for you, and maybe, dispelling some of the witchy woo-woo stuff. Not that I don't love a witchy woo-woo. Let me tell you, I'm a whimsical girl. I love a whimsy. Okay, because it's delightful to me, and I derive great joy. And we're artists. Why not play pretend, right? Or maybe simply declare, because what is play pretend anyway? Right? We know as actors and artists, when we are a character, we are the character, right? So perhaps if you're interested in whatever I'm talking about and getting squared with what manifestation actually is, getting clear on why it hasn't been working, and start to pivot your practice so that you are inevitable, you are the source, there is no way, right, in heck that it won't happen for you because you are in such trust and, dare I say, surrender to the process, then this is the thing for you, okay, truly. And if any of you are listening, you're like, I'm not really sure, like, I don't know, is that real? Like, I don't know. I want you to ask yourself, is there a part of you that is just afraid to subscribe to it because if you did and it didn't work, that would make you like foolish or weird, right? Is there some kind of judgment that you're casting on yourself that you won't let yourself even, suspend your disbelief and even just like entertain the thought for a second because maybe if it was real, that would be too overwhelming, or it would just kind of, I don't know, there's something about it that doesn't feel safe or real or tangible, then in that case, I mean, I might still invite you to sign up and just see, you know what I mean? Just if anything, it could be an interesting way of looking at things in a slightly different way. And if you're interested in being challenged in different ways of thinking, that would be where I would go, okay? But I will say this manifestation challenge, this inevitable artist activation is not about making you subscribe to beliefs that don't feel aligned to you either, right? It's just about thinking about things in a slightly different way. But, I'm not about enforcing belief systems onto people that that don't feel good to them, right? So use your discernment, but if you're even slightly curious, like I would say, like maybe check it out. Okay. Anyway, that was like a 7-minute plug about what this is leading to and why we're doing this, and kind of reacting to the people on TikTok Live as they're coming up here. But let's talk about the actual meat and potatoes of today's episode, okay? So last episode, we talked about manifestation in the way we talked about how some people like don't really feel safe to subscribe to that, that, it could feel a little bit uncomfortable, that a lot of artists, are actually subscribing to it. They're just not really, I don't want to say they're not doing it right, because I don't think that's necessarily true. I just don't think they have all the pieces to the puzzle, okay? And so then they get frustrated when it doesn't seem to work, because yeah, it feels either exhausting or there's things that happen that they don't understand, and then they just kind of throw the whole idea down the toilet. And then we also talked about one of the key pieces to true masterful manifestation, which is actually tending to the vessel, you, your body, your mind, and your nervous system especially, which is connected to your subconscious mind. And how if the vessel is not tended to, no matter what you try to call in, if it is perceived as unsafe to the body, your body will then turn into fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode and start acting weird, responding and behaving differently in an effort to actually push that thing from coming in away. Because we're going to talk about this again in the Inevitable Artist Activation. We're going to get so deep into this, okay? But when we do declare that we are an inevitable and we declare that this is happening and from a place of trust, right? We'll talk about control and commanding, and we're not God, right? So what is the difference between trust? We talked about paradox last time, right? That we can declare and it is, right? We have the ability to create. And at the same time, there has to be this trust and connection to something that's bigger than us, because again, we are not God. We can't, I mean, and again, this is where if this crosses things that you're comfortable with, and I'm using the term God and that doesn't feel good, then just think about something larger than you, universe, Mother Nature, Earth, something that doesn't feel as charged, because I want to be respectful. There's a lot of people that have a lot of religious trauma, and this can be really sticky. So just acknowledging that for a second. But paradoxically, we can command and create because we are creations, and there needs to be trust and this almost reciprocity and this communication and this dance with something that is larger than us. Like, we are in partnership of creating. Yes, we are the source, and we are actively creating with something bigger than us. So if it doesn't come in exactly the way we want, then there's the idea of adopting the mindset of, okay, I trust that I'm actively creating. I am all on board that I am declaring that this is true. And maybe that specific thing that I wanted in that way isn't exactly aligned to what I'm truly saying I want, or my body might be pushing it away, right? We kind of talked about that last time. Or there's something even better that my human brain can't even fathom that is actually coming my way and is way more aligned with the thing that I'm declaring than what I have come up with. Okay, so that's the paradox of deciding and surrendering at the same time. And, paradox it's rampant everywhere, and it's a way easier, and this is not meant to sound condescending at all, and I apologize if there are younger listeners that take it that way. That is not my intention. But literally, when your brain develops at, I believe, 27, 26, 27, you start to be able to mentally hold the concept of paradox, this and that. This and that. This can be true and this can be true. Whereas earlier than that, you actually, your brain isn't developed to the point to be able to hold that as easily. I'm not saying that they can't think that way. I'm just saying, your brain gets to that point that it's capable of holding both just by development, okay? And I remember this when I was young. It was way easier. It was way easier to be like, well, this is how it is, and just deciding, and then sticking to that thing, right? And it's like having very black and white thinking, which is ironic because I'm teaching you in manifestation, listen, there is a different way to look at it. And of course, there are things that are set that are part of the practice of it. And ironically, it's also a flexible practice that isn't set. Right? It weaves and moves. It is very complex brain stuff. Okay. So if again, what I'm talking about sounds a little bit like, what? Just know that, again, when we do this challenge and when I'm talking here, I've been doing this work for a really long time. So I might say things that are just a little, I don't want to say advanced. There's no levels. Okay. But this isn't basic. I'm not approaching this as if have you ever thought of think positive before? That's not what this is. This is assuming that you have done some of this work, or you've thought about it, you've been curious about it, and you've tried some things and it doesn't all the way land for you, or it has sometimes and it hasn't other times. Okay. It's just offering another perspective on how to approach something that is rather esoteric and, it's not really a tangible thing. Okay. So with all of that, let's keep going. So we talked about all of these things last time. And today I want to talk about collapsing gaps and how certain mindset things can actually stop you from, I don't see, again, in older manifestation practices are like the really basic ones. Everybody's telling you to like stay in the vortex, stay in the field, stay in the positive place. Now that could be exhausting because we are human beings, okay? Emotions and fluctuating emotions and states of being is a natural part of being human. Okay. And actually, but if it deals with the nervous system, the more that you suppress and ignore these elements of yourself that are charged and have something to say and are bucking and rebelling to, this new way of being, that is continuing to take up space. So actually, tending to the softer spots, the sadder parts, the parts that are grieving, that actually, when you do so in a way that actually clears the energy from a place of love and acceptance, then that actually clears out space for more of the things that you actually want to come in. But that actually requires a great deal of self-attention and care. And in a way that doesn't have agenda to fix, right? But in a way that's like, okay, I'm acknowledging that this, I'm feeling this way right now. It's like emotional intelligence, right? Having that emotional intelligence and love for yourself is actually a way to create more energetic space than if you were to be like, well, I'm going to ignore that and I just have to think positive and stay in the vortex. Yeah, you're going to exhaust yourself and you're actually taking up more it's like a counterintuitive way of doing something. Now, is there some truth to thinking positive and like staying in the vortex? Yes. Mostly to the point that when we are the magnetic source, right? That's the theory, is when we are in partnership of creation for our own lives. And that's why it's important for artists, because y'all are always creating anyway. You guys are some of the most powerful manifestors. There we go. Because you are actually in the state of creation a lot, but you're not applying it to your actual life all the time, okay? So when we are the source, when our field, right, if you think about yourself as like a radio tower, okay, and you're emitting a certain frequency, right, that frequency of joy, that frequency of gratitude, which gratitude is actually one of the strongest positive frequencies possible. So like bits are there, right? Is there anything wrong with having a gratitude practice in the morning? No, because it's changing your energetic field to be in the highest state of gratitude, right? And that is magnetic because you're emitting a really powerful frequency. But the problem is emotions and having a human experience, when we demonize that and decide that the narrative now becomes, well, if I'm having a bad experience, well, then my vibes are really bad. And then then that becomes the dominant frequency of fear and anxiety and panic and control over how it's not working because, oh no, like you're demonizing your emotional human experience, right? So it's all about what actually is the strongest thing that you're beaming out. And if the strongest thing you're beaming out is like gratitude, presence, joy in the little things, right? Most of the time you're looking at things in a positive lens. You're doing your best to, check yourself and your thoughts. Yeah, that's an element of it, okay? And that is a powerful element of it, okay? But when you have, the inevitable emotional roller coasters that happens to everyone because we're here on earth living life, the best way to navigate that, because most of those are actually the nervous system, body, and little parts of us flaring up and actually showing us and communicating with us where certain things don't feel safe and activating old hurts and old wounds, or these parts are coming in, these reactions, the fight, flight, freeze, those are coming in actually to protect old wounds and how we're behaving. And so when that flares up, instead of looking at it as, oh my God, I can't have these bad feelings, this is bad, really it's communication. It's actually parts of yourself communicating, hey, if you want this life and the things you love, this is where it needs tending. So do you see how that reframe is? It's more directory. It's more data than it is having specific meaning of how much you're in your vortex or whatever, okay? So for example, if I had an argument with my husband or just like we're just tense, okay? And and sometimes what happens when I'm like around, I like move locations a lot because I'm back and forth from New York City to Pittsburgh. So sometimes it's just like to get back in a routine is a little hard. And when I was recently in New York, I was feeling so good because I actually this stuff that I was talking about, I feel like I up leveled in the sense of my ability to like notice and be aware without attaching meaning to it. Kind of like how I was saying, like when I was having a bunch of things flare up in that video that I posted and I talked about in the last episode of like, oh, I'm noticing without attaching it to being like meaning me, like I'm noticing from a place of detachment and like true self-love of like, oh, no wonder it hasn't come in because like this needs tended in. Okay, all right, I understand that. And now I'll tend to that, right? So I had been in a really good headspace. I had been doing some really fun creative projects with some friends. So I had just deep cleaned the whole apartment because we're going to be subletting the apartment out to a friend for the summer while I'm doing another gig and I'm home with my husband. So I came home and the house here is like not clean. And I had basically moved out of the other apartment to make space for the sublet. So I came home with like all of these clothes and crap from the other place. And then meanwhile, our basement is still a construction zone. And now my office is in the basement. Right? So like I come home to working in a construction zone when I had just deep cleaned the other place. And I know, princess problems, girl. Like, okay, it's so sad. You had to deep clean your other apartment, right? Like, I know. Okay. So we're acknowledging that. That's privilege and luck and all the things. And like, I am also grateful for that. And when I came home to, a house that was very messy, and I was in a flow and now the flow is disrupted. And then my husband's like, blah, 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 like he needs the things that he needs. Then I was like, oh, like I was so triggered. Okay. And previously not having done any kind of this work, I might have like snipped at him and like taken things like really personally and been like, oh, like, and that activation was happening in my body, but instead of like blaming it on him, I paused and took a second and was like, yeah, a part of me, like he's been very busy too traveling for work, and so he had put a couple work trips on while I was here, okay? And a part of me got really activated because I felt like, why did you not communicate with me that you were going to be out of town. I was coming home to see you, right? Like I feel like not seen, right? I feel not heard. I feel like, is you not? And then that part was like trying to like spin out and be like, does he not really care about you? Is he trying to avoid you? What's wrong? It's like the anxiety mosquito from like Big Mouth, right? If I let that be the thing that was running the show, like that would have been such a sloppy, like not a good time, right? Because it's not even really true. So when I sat with that and I was like, oh, this part of me feels XYZ way because, okay, I'm feeling like dysregulated and all of this. Then I regulated myself. Then I came back to the conversation and I was like, hey, I know I came off spicy. I'm feeling this way, blah, 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 blah. And so it's like disarming the charge of the conversation and taking responsibility for your activation in it. Does that make sense? So anyway, when we're the source and we have these we have these moments of humanity, right? It's not about controlling the dominant frequency in that way, but it's more about seeing whatever charge comes up, allowing it to be there, regulating through it, and then moving on, which I believe can help you get on track a little bit easier and get into a better flow with everything, okay? So there is nothing wrong with think positive. It is true, okay? But it's not the whole thing, because if you're ignoring, like I was saying, these parts that get activated, then you're actually going to be in a conflicting state versus just being like, oh, actually my go-to is acknowledging, accepting, allowing it to breathe, and then choosing differently. That is a different state than, oh, I'm not allowed to feel all these very human things, and because I have to be constantly micromanaging how I am showing up at any given moment, okay? So that's one thing that we can note about like older manifestation practices that can exist. The other thing I will say that is oversimplified with manifestation, and again, we are going to get into this so much deeper in the inevitable artist activation, but is the place you actually manifest from as far as thought structure, action, and vibration, okay? So bear with me, okay? But when we're in our day-to-day lives here, okay, what we're seeing in front of us and what is actually has manifested in our reality in this moment is actually in a 3D, okay? What we're seeing here in this 3D, okay, I'm seeing my piano in front of me, I'm seeing the desk, I'm seeing the phone, I'm seeing this light in this present moment. This is actually on a lag. So anything that pops up in your life is actually evidence of your previous state. Okay? So it's a little bit on, it doesn't have, I mean, the timing of everything is not really up to us. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But more of it being that if you're this is where people get tripped up. If you're looking for evidence, if it's working, and you're looking around you in the present moment being like, see, did my practice happen yet on my 3D? I'm looking around my 3D and it's just not working. It's not happening yet. Well, it's because it's on a lag, dude. And now you've changed it because you're not really truly in trust. You're looking all around you for proof. And so, I mean, that's the crazy part about it, is that you have to be in conviction and trust in yourself and at least be like, F it, let's go, like, let's try, without looking for the proof to feel safe about doing it in the first place. Does that make sense? So it's trippy, right? And it's sure, can it be simplified to just, I'm going to choose to think different? Sure. Can it be simplified until I can just have positive, happy emotions, and that's going to be the thing that, manifests everything to me and all of that? Sure. Can you vision and dream board it, and we're going to talk about that in a second? Sure. But what's more important is you actually can't, it's not about seeking out in existence right now for proof. Okay? And I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. If you're like, because that puts you, that's an auditioning energy. Okay? That's not from a magnetic source energy. That's from, I have to look outside of myself that it's happening instead of declaring, no, I am this. And so it's automatically happening. I know that's a crazy difference. I know that doesn't seem like it's that big of a difference, but it's truly a big difference. Again, when I've kind of talked about this, there's a creator called Raina Campbell that talks about this. She uses the term seeker versus source. Okay. Source being you are the person that the things that you want emanate from. Seeker meaning I have to look outside of myself for this thing to happen. Okay. It's the difference between I am auditioning to have the life that I want versus already accepting and casting yourself in the life you want for an artist reframe. Okay. Again, we'll touch that. That's real deep and can be very heady, but like that is one element of it. Are you manifesting from 3D? Are you looking around you and looking at all of this as evidence if it's working or not, when really you're looking at something that's backlogged and is not an accurate representation of your current state? It's a representation of what your previous state was because it's in a lag. Okay. And it puts you into secret, puts you into looking for things outside of you for proof, which is not true trust and not true embodiment. Okay. Now there's 4D. Okay. 4D is your thought space. And this is where a lot of people also try to manifest from. Okay. If I just journal about it and I think about it all the time. Okay. Thinking about it isn't the same as embodying the energy of being it. Okay. What we really want to get is into 5D. So that's actually emitting and embodying it as if it's already happening, rehearsing the feeling, experiencing the sensation of having it, and taking action because you are in that state. You have declared, I am this thing. And so then you already are in the brain space and the action space of doing the things that make it happen. Versus 4D is like, I'm just thinking about it and I'm just hoping and wishing and praying. And wouldn't it be so great if it's happened? And like, I would. Now, I will say, I'm going to mention this briefly because in the inner circle, we have quite a large manifestation program in that membership as well. And I'm going to continue to beef it up because there's just so much around this, right? So if you're listening and you're like, this 3D, 4D, 5D stuff is like heady AF and I don't quite get it, okay, I'm going to give you some examples of ways that this can work and be seen. So again, when I was trying, the one manifestation that has been sticky for me actually has been being on Broadway. And the reason it's been so sticky is because I've attached so much self-worth to it that needing energy actually has been subconsciously pushing it away. Meanwhile, my system actually hasn't felt that safe to receive that thing because of a couple reasons. One, because I've had other professional jobs before, and I learned that I actually didn't really like having those jobs very much. And I didn't really like the people, and it was challenging. And so part of me is like, well, I don't really want to be put in that space again. I don't want to feel that level of rejection from people, right? So it doesn't feel that safe. I don't really want to have that lifestyle. So there's part of me that actually isn't all the way on board with it. And then two, part of me decided that, well, if I do want it, then I have to have a lead. Well, then it flares up in my system. Okay, well, if you have a lead, you're too visible and you're too seen. And oh my God, like you're gonna be compared to people and da-da-da-da-da. So, and then there's another part that's like, who do you think you are that you're able to declare that? I came from like a really high end performing arts, college, like one of the best in the world. But, when you're at those schools and stuff, everybody kind of puts you in bins over where they think you should go. And so I was really fighting kind of this complex that I was told was going to be the way that I was going to work as like a chorus girl, a show girl, because I'm tall and I could dance and I had long legs and, then I would be a shoo-in for those kinds of roles. But again, when I had those kinds of jobs, I wasn't fulfilled and I didn't really like them. And there was a lot of shame that I had to uncover and work through around declaring that like, hey, I don't really want to do that. And there's also a lot of pride that those people had. So I didn't want to like be a dick and like shit on that kind of job when there's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't feel good to me. And I've never felt like those are my actual skills and what I'm here to do. And I was living in dissonance with that. Okay. So when I mean that I was trying to manifest that from the 3D, part of me had attached to, well, if I do manifest a lead on Broadway, and this was one of the things I had to work through the most, well, then that finally gives me the validation that me pursuing this to begin with wasn't a waste of my time all along, that I was actually good enough to do this. So there was like a label and need. And then I was like, well, if I do get this, then that will finally prove to me that I'm good enough. So then I was like trying to manifest it in, but I was actually trying to manifest a core need, which was I just wanted to feel good enough, right? And so I had labeled, if I'm a lead on Broadway, then I'll finally feel good enough. And so then I'm looking for proof all around me. Why hasn't it come in? Why hasn't it come in? I'm looking to, what I actually desire is this feeling of feeling good enough, right? It's not actually being on Broadway, right? It's an unmet childhood need. And so as I'm looking and searching and trying to get validation from this thing and being like, it's just kind of insidious because it's like, well, then it hasn't happened yet. Well, I guess I'm not good enough, right? Or like you're using something outside of yourself to prove something that literally cannot do that. Okay. So that is sort of an example of 3D. Well, this isn't working. Why isn't it working? I don't see that it's proof that it's working. And it's like, well, because you're in dissonance. Not only do you actually are not full mind, body, nervous system, spirit on board for it because you have all these attachments to, not wanting to recreate another experience that wasn't a good experience. And you don't want that lifestyle and you don't actually even want to maybe be there. But then you also have attached something that is it's just too much to weigh on that opportunity. That's not that opportunity's responsibility to fill. Okay. And I will say this, if that's what's happening and you're kind of listening to me and you're like, oh shit, maybe I'm doing that. The only way to really meet those unmet needs and to feel like you actually don't need something, it's fine. Like I still want to do a lead on Broadway. It's just, it doesn't have as much meaning as it used to. And so when I'm going into auditions, then I'm like actually like truly detached or more than I was, right? We talked last time about how there's still some activation around the opportunity itself, not feeling that safe. But when I am going in, I do a lot better because I am actually more detached. I'm not asking casting to give this to me so I finally feel good enough, right? Like people can feel those things. And that's the other thing when you're trying to manifest from the 3D and you're trying to have unmet childhood needs, which is really from a place of ego and not from an actual genuine place of like, I know this is meant for me kind of thing. It gives desperate, it gives needy energy, and people can sense it and they can feel the amount of responsibility that you're putting on them. And they're like, ugh. And then you just doesn't go your way. Like, that's what I mean. That's part of how the nervous system shows up in your energy and your action and how it ends up pushing it away. Because it gives off weird vibes. Right? And people can sense that. So that is another way when you're not truly detached and you're searching in the 3D and you're looking for proof that it's working and all of this stuff. And it gets all kinds of fucking knotted and all kinds of caught up and, tangled up. Okay. Then that's where it gets convoluted and it doesn't just drop in. And the only way to fill that part of your life is to give yourself a full life, where you have so much going on and so many other things that matter that bring you joy, and you've actually met the unmet need by showing yourself in other ways that you are good enough, by building that trust with yourself and doing other things, then it detaches the feeling that this has to go a certain way. In my experience, that's kind of the only way to do that. I know a lot of artists, like, you're told, like, you just can't want it that bad. You just can't need it that bad. Like, again, it's kind of like the same thing with just think positive. It's like not the full meat and potatoes of how to actually do that. It's when it's your everything, it's gonna it automatically charges you in that way. Okay. And again, in my experience, like, I know everybody's different, so maybe this is different for you, but the only way to get true detachment is not lying to yourself and pretending you don't care. It's getting other things that matter more in your life, taking control of your life and saying, well, I'm the kind of person that, yeah, I do this, but I do other things too, because I'm a well-rounded, happy, joyful person that has autonomy over my life and chooses what lights me up. And like, you actually don't have control over me and I don't really care. Getting this thing is not going to be the thing that proves that I'm finally enough, because I've proved to myself that I'm enough because I know that. Right? So that's what I mean. So that's more source versus I'm seeking outside of myself for you to prove to me something else. Okay. So that's an example of 3D. 4D is like, again, I'm just going to write about it and think about it, but you're not actually embodied. Like, you're not actually taking the steps, or you're not clearing the space with the other charge and the dissonance that's there. Okay. So, all right. When I was trying to do this and pivot out of a really bad time in my life, and I was like journaling and I was like listening to affirmations every single day, I was resisting what was actually presently there. And that was just another way of me ignoring myself. I was resisting all of the grief and things that were just lurking and so charged in my energy. I was so afraid to feel them because I felt like if I felt them, then my vortex would be all effed up and then I wouldn't get the things I want. And it's like, what? Right? No, like, you're a human being. Like, give yourself the dang decency to like feel how you feel and be who you be in this moment. And then you can choose differently. The choosing differently after clearing the space is what 5D is. The choosing, the tending to self, allowing it to clear and being like, yeah, so I love and accept all of me, and I know that this is happening right now, and I'm aware, and I see these tender parts of myself that are all activated and charged and, might be pushing things away. But I also know in like my fullest, highest version of self, like, this version of me chooses to act in a different way. I can choose to tend to myself, and then I can shift and catch where I am then looping back on old patterns. That's what 5D is. Okay. 4D is I'm just going to write about it and think about it, but I'm not actually going to embody it. Okay. Embodying mind, body, spirit, action. 4D, I'm going to think. Okay. So many of you guys just think. You just like, hi, Samya. I got some other students popping on. Thinking isn't enough. Okay. Thinking isn't enough. It's about tending and deciding. Okay. I know this was like way more complex than I actually probably intended on getting in here. This is more of a taste of some of the stuff that we'll explore in the Inevitable Artist Activation. And I get if it's like, what are you saying? Like, just ask yourself of times where you were trying to manifest something or you were manifesting something. And, what are things that haven't come in? How have you been approaching that? Right? And what are some things that did drop in? And what was your state of being? I'll tell you, when I started to actually, again, certain things are going to be stickier and harder to manifest because of your attachments and stories to them and what they mean to your system, right? For example, the Broadway thing was, not the easiest thing for me, right? But actually, relationships are the first thing that was presented to me because that was an easier thing for me to do at first. It was clearer from my experience to be able to do that first, okay? And so, when I started to do that, when I finally attracted my husband, it was definitely 5D because it felt like this is inevitable. I know I'm going to find him. I'm in complete trust. I act completely authentically. I know it's important for him to, the person that I'm meant to be with, to see me be embodied and be who I actually am and not try to change myself for them. So I walk with pride in resembling and embodying this. And I know that I'm not asking for too much, and I can absolutely declare that I will find the right person for me. And I deserve that. And I am the person, I am wife material. I am the person that people would want to spend the rest of their life with. And it was so easy and embodied and effortless. Like, it wasn't even like I wasn't fighting it anymore, right? It was so in my bones and my energy and my projection, right? So that's it. 5D feels easier. It feels powerful. It feels like, like, of course, right? It feels boring too. It's powerful and boring because it doesn't have all this shit around it anymore. It's not like, well, I can't really have this. If you're having all of those thoughts and resistance around it, that's an indication, again, that your system somehow doesn't feel like this thing that you're asking for is quite safe yet. And so you need to tend to that. Otherwise, you're just fighting it the whole time, and it's still not going to come in, okay? So all of that, I got to end because we got to go to the gym. And then I'm actually teaching a class at noon to the people that did the Discover. If anyone signed up for Discover and then got the Pillars sale, they got a free call with me. So that's what we're going to be doing at noon. So I have less than an hour to go to the gym. Very sneaky way of me to avoid the gym, but here we are. So I'm going to go do that so I'm on time for my class. And if you tuned in for the TikTok live, I know today was a little bit like heady, but I hope that it maybe just started to get you to think about things in a slightly different way. Again, kind of clearing out maybe some other things that aren't very helpful or ways that you're resisting actually being compassionate towards yourself would be a big one. Ilsa, my student, says, busy boss lady. Girl, you know it. Also, it's the draft is happening right now in Pittsburgh. And it's probably a zoo. Like, we're like half an hour outside of the city, but like, oh my God, like there was like documented like 250,000, 300,000 people or something had come in for the draft, for the NFL draft. So we're going to be going down to that fair today and probably meeting some of my like in-laws and hanging out with people. So yeah, we got a busy day. We gotta let the husband enjoy his evening his weekend too. So we're gonna wrap up here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Again, if you're just logging on to the TikTok live, please join the waitlist for the Inevitable Artist Activation. Like, we are not basic. We are getting into stuff at a deeper level. We're clearing and dismantling things that have been kind of messing you up and you didn't realize it. If you're listening to the podcast, you should be able to just register for that right now. And I really hope to see you in there. It's going to be a 14-day challenge. It's going to be insane. I am so excited. I'm so excited about it that I might release it earlier because I just really want to do it. It's going to change my state of mind. I know it's going to change a lot of people, and it's going to help a lot of people, help them think differently, help them embody who they actually say they want to be. So let's do it. Okay. So go check that out. Swipe up on the podcast, check out the link in the show notes. And with that, I will talk to you next time. Okay. Love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. This helps me get this information out to more artists all over the world. Let's work together to spread the joys of music. Until next time, I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, signing off from the Singer's Path podcast. Thanks for listening.